just as we're finishing up, talking about the customer story of the future, I had put in the chat, if anybody wants a copy of the complete checklist for conducting remote customer interviews. I've done over 90 of them, some that are just amazing. I mean, they're 99.9% as good as having the professional camera crew on site. And so we've captured that in this little guide. And then the other thing I just wanted to offer out to people is we also have, I don't believe in strict interview guides when you are interviewing customers, but what I have compiled is a bunch of best performing prompt questions to ask people, given the different situations that you might be in where you're trying to collect specific insights. Because I think one thing, we all are familiar with the customer stories where it's the history of that customer. They had this problem, here's the solution, and here's the benefit that they're getting. Well, I mean, there's also a huge potential to ask for other insights that are more surgically aligned with the strategic growth initiatives of your company. And so let's say you have a goal of trying to differentiate versus a fierce competitor. There's a certain type of insight that you could capture from a customer. Let's say that you need to create urgency by surfacing the risks of doing nothing. Well, there's a certain type of question you can ask to elicit that insight. You see here, push buyers to want to make a change by showcasing how others realized they needed to make a change, another form of creating urgency. So also let me know if you want to just see that best performing prompt questions list. I think it really helps you move beyond having the story just be all about your product, but to also be about customers sharing their insights, and especially when those insights are aligned with how buyers buy and what those biggest questions, fears, and doubts are that your buyers have. Now we want to do a wrap up, and then we also want to get into our cohorts. And I know a lot of people were very interested in these cohorts, and so we're going to be getting to that in a minute. And again, it's going to be a really exciting program for you to come together with like-minded peers around topics that you pick. And these cohorts can be 2 people, 5 people, 10 people, 20, depending on how many are interested in that topic. And they can last as long as you want to keep them running. And so we're going to get into that in just a minute. But before we do, we want to just do a quick wrap up of the session and have you tell us what you're going to be doing differently. Because this is always one of my favorite quotes. It's been attributed to Albert Einstein. It's also been attributed to Henry Ford. If you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. And a lot of you have given a lot of time to attend this conference and absorb a lot of great information. You start to think about, what are you going to do differently? I just can't imagine if you spent a week going through this with all of your peers and then you're just going to go back and do the same thing that you've always done. You're really not taking advantage of this wonderful opportunity. Let's just take a moment right now, if we could, turn off your mutes, turn on your camera if you like. And if you want to just put in the chat that you have something you'd like to say or a comment that you'd like to make, but we want to just hear from you. What's something that you've taken away that you want to do differently? Nobody's going to do anything differently?
Nobody's even turning on their camera, Jeff.
Okay.
Oh, I'm definitely going to get Evan's checklist and steal some of his ideas, no question.
James here from Claire's, and our company in general is looking to do more upsell, cross-sell, and really tap into our customer base. So obviously in the coming year, we're going to be doing a lot differently. I'm going to try to figure out how to do it without hurting the relationship, which I think is something that we're all very concerned about. Always approaching this from a customer advocacy perspective, it can be tough to think of it from a sales perspective, but I do think there's a nice balance there with information sharing, making sure that you reach out in ways that will help the customer and make it a mutually beneficial thing.
And so James, what specifically are you going to do differently? You told me about a goal that you have for next year. Yeah,
the upsell, cross-sell, starting to tap into our customer base for, it's also reduced churn, but get more ARR from it, maybe sell some services and increase the success packages they have, things like that.
And is that something that's a goal that you've been given, or is that something that you're looking to step up and contribute more to? Like how did that come about?
It's the former. So a corporate goal, just a catalyst of the times, I'd say, but something that any healthy company should do, and certainly customer-focused companies should do.
Right. And And speaking of that, and so a lot of this, I mean, what I love what James just said is it was driven on a corporate goal. And so there was a goal and saying, okay, now what can I, as my part of my program, do to support that corporate goal? I mean, that's exactly how you need to be thinking about it. And so even if somebody has an idea or knows of a corporate goal that they're going to, that either they haven't been called on to support, or they would like to support, or maybe you have been called on to support it, you know, throw that out there as well and hear from your peers on ways that you can actually you know, mobilize customers to help with that goal.
Hey, Jeff?
Yep.
Zerwin, what I'm going to do is I am going to tap into this network much more deeply. James reiterated something that came up in my session around there's very little experience within the customer marketing world on upsell, cross-sell, how do you communicate with customers that way? And what I'd like to do is, you know, find those people who are either figured it out or are early on or in the middle and struggling with it, and bring that group together and start thinking about some of those sort of best practices that we saw with the content presentation that just happened. I mean, content's been something that we've been dealing with for years, so there should be a lot of best practices and some guides. But, you know, having customer marketing dip into upsell is relatively new. And so that's an area I'd want to do differently by not just trying to figure it out on my own.
Right. Yep.
Hey, Callie, how about you?
Hey, yeah, I really appreciate the whole conference, and it's actually funny, Erwin, because what you're talking about tying customer marketing to upsell has been on my mind a lot, because that's an approach I've taken within the past like 2 quarters, and actually we're trying to strengthen that now even more. And something I'm taking away from this conference is to the 2 things that you said. I think it was Jeannie, even today, about taking your stories and making sure that your customer can use that to advocate for themselves and grow within their own company, and that you are pushing forward that internally. When it's come to our upsell efforts, both of those things have been like huge for us. And what we're going to be doing now is, you know, changing our, like leaning into our customer community more, changing some programming there so that we can work on that even more effectively. And then the other thing that's on my mind, so I just jumped into it, but I work for a company called Guru. We are a knowledge management software, and we're really investing in product-led growth and designing these like special moments in our product to inspire people to share it and get more people on board. And I think that there's a huge opportunity to put customer faces, customer quotes, customer stories, like somehow embed it in that experience. And I didn't get to go to all of the sessions, so I'm not sure if it ever came up in conversation yet, but something that made me excited, like hearing about the future of customer stories, made me helped me look forward even more to what we're going to be doing there. So that's a little bit of what was in my notebook this whole time.
Very cool. Hey,
That's
Kyle,
great.
how about you? You've turned your camera on.
Yeah, so that brought up an interesting mindset and something that we've started doing already. We just used Lab 5 to build a wiki to do takeout campaigns. So we have some customers that migrated from a competitor and have been with us for a while, and we did little snapshots with them, and we're going to be putting that on a public-facing web page. So trying to get more integrated on the front end of a sales cycle rather than classic references being towards the back end of a sales cycle towards the close.
That's
Interesting
great.
approach. You're finding the customers are willing to let you use it in that mode?
Yeah, because it's interesting. So the space that I'm in, I work for a firm called Ellucian, and we only support higher education. And higher ed is one of those things where it's a close-knit community, a lot of kind of cross-pollination between C-level executives going from university to new university. Sometimes they take their technology partners with them, and sometimes they don't, but they're all very willing to share where they're successful.
Yeah, that's a really good approach, not only in education, but in any kind of public sector scenario. So hats off on that
Right.
one.
And I think that's a great example too of customer stories that aren't just about their strict experience, right? I mean, it's a way they're talking about their experience, but like I said when I was talking about the guide, it's really capturing insights specific about, you know, why did they switch, right? If you're doing a takeout program, or what was the deficiency of the prior solution, and or what was the impact of those shortcomings, things like that that you might not normally find in a traditional case study.
Asha, you looked like you were ready to jump in. You still there?
I am. Can't hide from you guys.
No.
Unfortunately, we know how to use Zoom.
So no, I'd love to stay connected along the lines of what Erwin you had mentioned, and even Callie. You know, what we've done in my organization is we've taken roles that have lived in different parts of the organization. So customer marketing, community, we created advocacy, and our focus is not just cross-sell, upsell, but it's also on the retention. So actually working really closely with customer success. And I know, Erwin, you've talked about this quite a bit. I'm finding that our campaigns we're sort of using a very broad term of campaign, and we're doing really 3 things with it. We're making sure that we've got a healthy amount of communication going out to our customers, so they're fluent on the products that they've bought, which isn't always the case. Ultimately helping them be successful. It's providing a one-to-many approach on the adoption, which we've historically leaned into our customer success team to do that on a one-to-one basis, but we're seeing the value of maybe taking those campaign tactics and applying it into more of a one-to-many to really drive that adoption, because if they're not using the product and happy with it, they're not going to buy more. And so only then can you then move on to the cross-sell, upsell communication and campaigns. And so I've noticed that our biggest hurdle, oddly, interestingly enough, is just getting to the data quickly to inform the communications and the campaigns. You know, where I'm at a company where we've made that sort of shift from being a startup and really being hyper-focused on land. And now it's, wow, we have a critical mass of customers, and we need to really lean in on the retention as a SaaS business, the retention and the cross-sell, upsell of what's right in front of us. And I think the pandemic has made it even more so. I think that several people have mentioned it in the talks that I've participated in, that this idea of vendor consolidation and our customers being more interested in staying with the people they know rather than potentially bringing in someone that they don't. So sort of playing into all of that, but there's a lot of goodness here. You know, Jeff and Dana, you guys have done a great job, but I look forward to remaining connected and kind of continuing the conversation.
And Asha, for you, is that a corporate directive, like a strategic initiative for your company to focus on that retention and bringing customers closer?
Yeah.
So it is. So it's coming top down.
Yeah. So the formation of how we've brought together customer marketing, advocacy, community, that sort of happened organically, but it's only recently that the directive has been, we need to really lean in hard on the retention. And we just brought in a chief customer officer, which I'm seeing more and more in different organizations. And so how it's yet to be sort of defined how my team will be working with that team, but there's no doubt that it's going to be a close relationship.
Right.
Yeah, this is really interesting. You know, the discussion I had about
my blanket, you're ruining it.
What?
Ruin it.
Okay, there we go. Whoever caught that mute, thank you.
I am very sorry. I got a puppy attack and I didn't think I was off of mute.
Well, now you have to.
Would have been way better if your video was on
That's
too
right.
for that.
Yeah.
pick up your puppy and you come back.
Authenticity reigns.
Yep.
Yep. Howard, what were you saying?
Just this whole notion about the maturity curve that you come through on this. And I gotta admit, the dog threw me. So the exact point I was going to make just left me. So I'll leave it said that I showed a maturity curve when Irvin and I spoke on Thursday last week, and to the point that was just made, right? That Asha was just making. It applies very, very directly to that. But unfortunately, I cannot recall the exact.
Yep. Right. All right.
Anybody else want to jump in?
I don't really have a, specific application to talk about, but one of the really awesome takeaways for me from the talk that we just had with Jeannie and Adam and everybody was this idea of continuity, like the fact that in a way, Jeannie has almost circumvented, the problem that comes with people leaving their positions, right? Like she has maintained these relationships at such a level that probably no matter where that person goes, where that executive ends up landing, they're probably going to continue to speak with Jeannie. And to me, that's just like this kind of amazing hack around retention and even growth, right? It's like, you're not just tied to your stakeholder and you are tied together, going places together. And that's just like a really beautiful part of this whole, customer marketing experience. And like, kudos to you and your team for achieving that. And I think there's, something to be said about, the maturity of that program that you guys have been able to achieve that is great. And so, yeah, more just my thoughts.
Right. And Kaylee, I'm glad you said that, because that's actually one of the metrics that we advise people to use in their program is the percentage of people who actually leave their companies and go to another company basically doing the same function. So they would be in the same buying center. Like what percentage of those people then become customers of your new company? And I'm talking about the people that were part of your engagement program. Right. And so you had somebody that was part of your ongoing engagement program. You had built a relationship with them. Your program had kept them closer to your company. They felt connected. They feel personally attached. They feel part of your tribe. And so, and if you do that well, when they go to another company, they're going to want to still be part of the tribe. And so that's a great success metric. And I did that at Forrester all the time. We actually had a program where we built this little widget that went into LinkedIn and notified us anytime one of our clients switched a job, and would tell us the old company and the new company, and then it would assign to somebody to reach out to them to, one of us running the engagement program to reach out with them to, as you said, congratulate them on the new job, find out what their responsibilities are going to be. Is it going to be very similar to what they were doing? Are they still a potential user of our research? So, and then, make it really easy for them to become a client again.
You wouldn't happen to have a copy of that widget, would you?
The widget? Oh, shit. I wish I did. Pardon my French. No, but having said that, though, I tried to recreate it after leaving Forrester, and LinkedIn has really clamped down on the APIs and the ability to write extensions like that. They used to be so much better about it.
Allison wrote in, I don't know if you saw it, Jeff, about her focus.
Yep, I see we'll focus on getting more creative and efficient with virtual client focus groups, marketing activities, bringing in cross-section of internal folks and clients.
Yes.
Yep, that's great.
I'm here on audio if you guys
can
you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Allison.
Then go ahead,
well,
jump in, Allison.
Sue may have the puppy. I had a rogue cat that chewed through my camera cord. So you're not going to be having the visual,
no.
But two things that I think that we're going to have to focus on is I don't anticipate, some of this was mentioned about the FaceTime or those video shoots. I don't think 2021 is certainly not going to start with those opportunities, right? And we're going to have to start to get a little more creative. Dabbled a little bit in some virtual focus groups this year, which were very well received by clients. I think where I tripped up is I didn't have, well, I had some of the right people internally on those calls, but not all of them. And what I am learning is that everyone takes something away from it, whether it's sales should be there, client management should be there, product marketing should be there, brand marketing should be there. And you start to play the game of telephone, like, look at these notes I took. People want to hear it from the horse's mouth. So if you have the opportunity, and when I have an opportunity to have clients together on a phone call and we're doing one of these, invite everyone and their uncle. I mean, it's up to them if they want to attend. So I definitely want to do more and be better with that. And then the other thing, and this is kind of a takeaway from everything during this conference, hearing all of the passion and the expertise and really how wide this area has grown. We need to really stop apologizing or stop being flexible. And I use the term flexible, and what I really mean is bending over backwards for certain other areas of the business that want to tell you how to drive your program and how client advocacy should be run. We are the experts in doing that. And it definitely takes, takes some nerve, and it takes a lot of confidence. I think everyone should have come away from this conference with that confidence that you know what you're doing and you're doing it right. Not that you won't improve from it, but it gave me more confidence to just keep pushing that. Nope, we are going to be consistent with our program. We're going to be consistent with our processes. I'm not going to treat one business unit, you're not special because of XYZ, when this is really the right way to get it done. So
bravo. That's great. And so that doesn't mean you're not going to listen to what the senior executives are looking to do with their strategic initiatives, right? But you can bring to them ideas for how you could be mobilizing customers, how your programs could support those initiatives, versus waiting for them or some other department to say, hey, I've got another request for you, or
Yep.
Why aren't you doing this? Or my buddy over at this company is doing this. Why aren't we?
Exactly. It's the bulldozer, and maybe not with the bulldozer, but we need to start thinking about ourselves not as pushy, but as experts in what we're doing.
So are you still going to call it the gentle bulldozer, or is it maybe just a little more of a pushy bulldozer? What do you think?
I'm thinking that then if I have the privilege to share information again, you may see a transition. Bulldozer may go out and expert may just come in. I might have to use that Einstein quote.
Right.
There's a lot of good Einstein quotes to steal, Allison, that will help you get that message across. By the way, that idea I floated about the customer improv, absolutely, it's designed to get all the right people in the room, right?
Yep.
So,
And
love to follow up on that.
And so I'm just gonna. This is a good segue because I want to pick up on what Allison was just talking about, and because I think it so ties into what we need to do here. Oh, to go this way. One of the things I just wanted to, this is my takeaway from the past 6 days, is if you go back to the pre-event surveys, as well as some of the comments that were made during the conference, it's pretty clear to me and to Howard, because we've been talking about this, that there is a #1 barrier to our customer engagement programs. And if you look at these quotes, okay, having the ear of the executives, visibility is lacking. Getting executives to invest in more than reactionary churn reduction. I'm not at the level in our company that fully influences whether we get buy-in. Keeping top of mind, there are always bigger fish to fry. Showing the proof of our impact. We're seen as an extra burden to other departments. What we need is on top of everything else that they do, right? Not enough people, not enough budget to hire the people we need, and true understanding and appreciation for our program. I mean, what do you think is what are all these a symptom of? if you were to put right in the middle, what's the real barrier here that these all speak to?
Customer marketer, you.
No. Those are the people that are facing the barrier. But what is? I mean, I won't play the game. So that the barrier here is the lack of executive buy-in. is really the barrier that we've heard over and over again. If you think of it, a lack of executive buy-in means that you don't have the ear of the executives or their visibility. They're not investing in the truly valuable customer programs that or pushing for those. You know, that you're just not top of mind. They're not giving you the resources you need to do your job. They're not bought into helping with top-down leadership to make sure other departments place value in what you're doing and make customer programs a priority. And so this isn't just during the conference. In fact, this was a post that I had put on LinkedIn a couple of days before the conference, before we did the survey. And it was based on 3 conversations that week. And this was on a Tuesday that I wrote this with customer marketing engagement pros about their challenges they're having with their customer programs. In each company, it came down to lack of executive buy-in. And I said at the time, this is a crisis. We have visionary people in middle management who aspire to engage customers in mutually beneficial ways, but their execs don't give a hoot. So these pioneers are constantly swimming against the tide. And I put this post out there as a preview of some of the sessions we'd be doing to cover it, but it still kept coming up. And so one thing that I wanted to just talk about, you know, we need to address this. So if you remember at the very beginning on last Monday, when Howard and I were doing our session, I put this modern day quote out there, which was connect your work to the strategic growth initiatives that your C-level executives care about, and your C-level executives will care about your work. Right? So think about that, you know, connecting your work to the strategic growth initiatives, but that's easier said than done. And so, so I just want to talk about a couple things that we want to do with the community to help in this area. And has anybody heard of the parable of the whole? No, okay. And so, this is we love parables, right? We talked about who moved the cheese, and our iceberg is melting the other day. But the parable of the hole is this guy was walking in the woods at one point, and he fell into a hole, and he was stuck there, and he didn't know how to get out. He was trying to climb out, and he just couldn't find a way out of this hole. And he's just kind of put his head down into his hands, frustrated that he couldn't get out of this hole. And then he heard some voices approaching. And he looked up and called up and said, help, help, I need some help. And the people looked down and they were like, what are you doing down there? And he said, I fell in. And they said, well, that was dumb. You know, why'd you fall into the hole? You should be more careful. When you're walking in the woods, look where you're walking. Don't fall into the hole. And they walked away. And then a couple hours went by, and he heard a couple more voices come by, and the people were up there. And he said, and these people were a little more empathetic. And they said, what are you doing in the hole? And he said, I fell in. He says, oh, I know how that feels. I've fallen into a hole before, and good luck with that. And they walked away. But they were a little more empathetic. And then a couple more hours goes by, and then a third group, he hears some more voices, and it's a couple people. It's these 2 people. And they look down and say, what are you doing in the hole? He said, I fell in and I can't get out. And so those 2 people then jumped into the hole. And he's like, what? Wait a minute. Now we're all stuck in the hole. Now we can't get out. But the 2 of them said to him, well, the good news is we know how to get out of this hole, and we're going to help you. So the parable there is, you know, we all need help getting out of this hole. And this is one area. Howard and I were talking yesterday, and we do an executive workshop on customer engagement strategies, and we're willing to offer this to people from the CustomerX community that have attended this conference for, you know, a dirt cheap rate, basically enough to cover our costs. But this is an executive workshop where we get those key C-level execs to the table who you want to influence, or who you want to have more, you want to be better aligned with, and also who you want to be placing more value and more top-down support for your programs. And what we do in this workshop, there's a very specific methodology we follow. First, we do some homework. So we have people bring to the workshop what their top strategic growth initiatives are for the next 6 to 9 months, because any planning horizon longer than that is just wishful thinking. So we go 6 to 9 months, you know, what are the top strategic growth initiatives? And then what are the challenges you're facing in those initiatives? What's keeping you back? What are the perceptions? What are the doubts? What are the fears? What are the limitations? What are the objections? What is it that's causing you to struggle with those? And then we work with them to really figure out how can you mobilize customers and customer voice and customer participation in programs to help knock that down. what happens, the magic here is a lot of times these executives don't even realize what each other felt were the top strategic growth initiatives or what the top challenges were. And then when they start to hear about the possibilities that other best-in-class companies have used to get into these, to solve these challenges, they get stoked. And you know what? When they get stoked and they now start to realize, you mean you can help me with this? They then get really excited and want to, and are going to really be really supportive of your program. And it's going to take your program, it's going to catapult it forward and really help elevate your game, because these executives are now going to be connecting your work to their work. And so just reach out to me, jeff@slap5.com, if you have if you want to talk about what this workshop is like. And also, if anybody is interested in doing like a multi-client version of this just with us, I'm happy to do this as part of our cohort program that I'm going to talk about next. But if you think there'd be value in kind of getting our peer group together and just have people talking about the types of strategic initiatives they know their company is picking up, then we can, as a group, help you start to frame what types of initiatives, or what type of ways you could mobilize customers to help support that. Okay, and then with that, I just want to talk about the cohorts again. And if we have time today, I would love to. We do have some breakout rooms set up for anybody that does want to just sort of jump in and start to talk to some like-minded peers before we leave today. But these are going to continue beyond the conference, as is lots of other engagement that you're going to be hearing about as we move forward. This is just really the start of getting this community super engaged with each other. But these are some of the topics that we heard this week of cohorts that you guys wanted to have us pull together. By far the winner, which I probably heard from 20 people at least, was customer upsell and cross-sell, and that just came up during some of the initiatives. I know so many people now are looking to get involved in this. I know retention is right up there. We could probably even do a separate one just on retention, retaining the current business. But this is really about expanding the current business you have with these customers through upsell and cross-sell. There was a nomination for customer lifecycle or customer journey mapping and planning, and because customer marketers are now either wanting to or starting to get more involved in that, especially as we hire more chief customer officers, because this is one of the core things they need to do. We had several people talk about winning over the VP of sales or winning over the sales team. That's one aspect of this executive level buy-in that we need, but I know that's a challenge that a lot of us face. We had some people talk about technology for reference management. We had a bunch of people ask for that. There was lots of talk about measuring our impact. People asked a lot of questions of each other. So I put this on here as a great idea for a cohort. And then, customer interviewing and insights is another great one. And then, we've got some experts that can help with that cohort as well. And so what we're going to do in order to carry out these cohorts is we're going to, there's going to be a Slack channel within the workspace for CustomerX for each one of the cohorts that people nominate and elect to create. And then they're going to be self-run, right? As you people meet and discuss this, you can decide, do you want to have a team leader? Do you want to just have a call every other week or so, or how would you like it to work? But then we're also going to give you the opportunity to, if you choose, to come back and share what your cohort came up with, or some of the ways that you figured out how to solve a particular problem. If you choose, again, no pressure, but why not? If you come up with some great strategies and you're really proud of it, we'll do another web session and allow people to share those great insights.